Welcome back. In the previous video, we created some graphic assets with Adobe Illustrator. And in this video, we're going to learn the correct way to import those assets into InDesign to allow for updates on the fly. So this time, with InDesign open, click Open, navigate to the exercise files, and choose Healthy Remote Work Flyer.indd. And before we move on, make sure your workspace is set to Essentials using the drop-down menu in the top right-hand corner. And if it still doesn't look the same, click on Reset Essentials. Now, right off the bat, you can see that the InDesign workspace is very similar to the Illustrator workspace. However, this time we'll be working with a page instead of an artboard. What we want to do is link our assets inside of these 4 frames at the center of our page. And the way we do that is really simple. First, make sure the selection tool is active by clicking on the selection tool at the top of the toolbar or pressing the V key. Click in the empty space to make sure nothing is selected. Then under the File menu, choose Place. Navigate to the exercise files and choose Healthy Remote Work Flyer Assets Final.ai. Make sure that the Show Import Options checkbox is filled and click on Open. In the dialog box that pops up, set the Pages to All and make sure that the Crop To options are set to Bounding Box Visible Layers Only, and check the box for Transparent Background. Then click on OK. Now you'll see that one of our assets accompanies our cursor. And each time you click on a frame, you'll place an asset into that frame. Since we built our artboards in the order of these frames, you can just click from left to right. Now obviously there are some cropping issues with these images. And the way we fix that is to select all of the frames, either by shift-clicking them or dragging to draw a box around them. Then in the Properties panel, come down to the Frame Fitting section and choose this second option, labeled Fit Content Proportionally. Now that looks good, except that I'd like for them all to be aligned at the bottom edge of the frame. And we can do that by clicking Options in the Frame Fitting section, and then choose Bottom Center in the Align From grid. And if you have the Preview option checked, you'll notice that you can see the change instantly. Click on OK. And that looks great. But I mentioned that we could make updates to this on the fly. So open up Adobe Illustrator, and then click on Open, navigate to the exercise files, and choose Healthy Remote Work Flyer Assets Final.ai. Now the first thing I want to do is make these first 2 scenes a little bit larger to fill the artboard. So make sure the selection tool is active by pressing the V key, and click on the second group to select it, and then resize it slightly by holding down the Shift key to constrain proportions and the Alt key to anchor the center in place. Next, let's enlarge the figure in the first frame. This time I'm only going to hold the Shift key because I want it to resize up and to the right. Now notice that once I do that, this line overlaps onto the second artboard, and that's going to cause a problem because it's going to get exported inside of that artboard. So I'll zoom in until I can see the line pretty well, then I'll double-click any object in the group to enter isolation mode, and then I can select and delete the line. Press Escape to exit isolation mode and zoom back out. Next, I want to change the color of this figure's shirt in the third artboard. Now we know that we can enter isolation mode by double-clicking and then pressing Escape to exit it, but a quicker way to bypass grouping would be to hold down the Control key to temporarily activate the Direct Selection tool, and then click on the object. Now we can press the I key to activate the eyedropper tool, and click on the green square at the bottom right of the color palette. That looks good to me. So all we need to do to update these in InDesign is first save your work by pressing Ctrl S or Command S on a Mac, then head over to InDesign, and now you'll notice that the chain link icon is replaced by a caution symbol, indicating that there's missing information in these links. So to update the links, click on the Window menu and choose Links. Now since this is the only file we've got linked, it's the only thing in the Links panel, and if you expand it, you can see it contains each of the artboards, and they all have that little caution symbol. So select the file at the top, and then click on the spinning arrows to update the links. Now you might also notice that the images in these frames look a little bit pixelated, and the reason for that is because InDesign scales down images to save you some processing power. You can change that by clicking on the View menu and choosing Display Performance, High Quality Display. Now this flyer looks alright, but it could probably use some more color. Make sure you have the selection tool active by pressing the V key and click on the text frame at the top of the page. Now notice when you do that, that in the Properties panel, you get a whole lot more options. Now I want to change the fill color of this text frame. And if you remember, in the second part of the tutorial, I showed you how to get color hex codes. So this time, we're going to grab those hex codes from our palette in Illustrator. So with the selection tool active, click on the green color at the bottom right of the color palette, then double-click on the fill color in the toolbar. Copy the hex code from the dialog box, and then head back over to InDesign, and double-click on the fill color in the toolbar in InDesign. Now paste the hex code into this dialog box and hit OK. Now I don't like the black on green look. I'd rather if these letters were just punched out in the same plain white color as the page. So with the selection tool active, double-click on the text frame to enter text editing mode, and then press Ctrl-A to select all the text. And now notice that the fill color option in the toolbar has a T inside of it, indicating that this is the option for the text fill color and not the text frame fill color. Double-click on the fill color icon, and this time select the hex code and enter 6 Fs. Click OK, and switch back to the selection tool, but keep in mind that if you press V while your cursor is active inside of a text frame, you'll just type the letter V. You can get around this by pressing Escape. And that looks much better. Now I want to increase the size of this banner. I want to extend it all the way to the edges of the page. So click on this resizing handle, and hold down the Alt key to resize both edges at the same time. Pull it all the way to the edge of the page, and let go of the mouse click before you let go of the Alt key. Do the same thing for the top and bottom, and this time just slightly resize it. Now unfortunately, the text didn't stay aligned to the center vertically. For a horizontal justification, it's as simple as coming down to the paragraph panel and choosing Align Center, but for vertical justification, it's just slightly more complicated. All you have to do is click on Object, and then go down to Text Frame Options, and under the Vertical Justification section, select Center, and click OK. However, it's still just a little bit off, so we can fix that using the character controls in the Properties panel. Click on More Options, and find the modifier for Baseline Shift. Click the up arrow a few times until the text looks like it's in the center. For me, that's right around 11 point. That looks good. Make sure you save your work by pressing Ctrl-S or Command-S on a Mac. Now this flyer looks alright, but I'm sure you could do much better. So if you'd like a challenge, I've included some templates and instructions for you to replicate this exercise and produce a unique graphic design project that you can include in your own portfolio.